Hi, everyone. I'd like to take a moment to welcome you. We have a large group today. This is the Master of Arts in Design Engineering, a joint degree between Rhode Island School of Design and Brown University. We're going to just take a few more minutes to allow others to join us, and we'll be right back. Okay, great. Again, welcome. I think to be cognizant of time, we'll go ahead and get started. So again, this is the Master of Arts in Design Engineering information session, a joint degree between Brown University and Rhode Island School of Design, otherwise known as RISD. And joining us today, we'll take a moment to meet the panelists.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Bull. I'm the director of the Brown Design Workshop and a senior lecturer in engineering. So in some ways, I represent the technical side in this effort. And I just want to be clear that this is a joint effort and a collaboration that we hope you will become part of.
Hi, my name is Keeper Nichols. I'm the department head of the Industrial Design Department at RISD, and happy to be a part of the program and to welcome you all to the info session today. My background is, I spent a 20-year career in toy design before coming to RISD, and I arrived at RISD in 1998, where I've been teaching ever since. So Chris and I have worked together for about 20 years on different projects, and yeah, happy to be here. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jenica Davies. I am an assistant professor in industrial design at Brown School of Design. And I am really excited for this program and all of the potential and the collaboration that I think is going to be really fantastic. And we want to tell you a little bit about the program today. So yeah, I'll stop there. Oh, and I should probably say I also, my background's in architecture and jewelry and metalsmithing, but I've been teaching design-based courses and a variety of different topics within that for about 10 years now. Thank you.
Well, terrific. So those of you out there, you may know that this is a new program that is just going to be starting in the summer of 2021. So please submit any questions that you have through the Q&A. It's the chat interface on your webinar control, basically shown here. So we'll take a few minutes at the end of the webinar to answer any questions that you may have. And those that we are not able to get to due to time, once this recording will be available, we'll email it out to all the participants and then address any questions that we did not get to towards the end.
So by way of introduction, I'm going to assume that people have spent a little time on the website and have a general idea about what we're trying to do. And our hope today is to go into a little more depth on it and really have a conversation about the program and about how we see your experience unfolding as we kick this new wonderful thing off. It's like, sorry, I feel a little bit like a father at the birth, just because we've been working on this for a long time. And as Keeper said, we've collaborated together on lots of projects. And this is in some ways an attempt to bring other people into that practice that we've enjoyed. So we'll talk about sort of how you might experience the program and why you may or may not choose to join us. So one of the things that we thrive on is, I mean, we could call it studio pedagogy or problem-based learning, but it's really being able to work together on things where we both share interests and passions, and things that to which we bring a set of skills that complements the other skills in the room. So, and we're essentially looking for people to join us where that sort of experience and that sort of work uh, resonates. So we'll go more deeply into sort of how we're going to do this as we continue the slides. We'll talk about more details about the curriculum, and then some details about the actual admissions process. And I think probably for some people, the portfolio raises a new issue that you might not have faced in other applications. So we'll spend some time discussing that. So let's go on to the other thing I say, I'm talking on this slide, but this will be a discussion between the three of us that you can join in through the Q&A. So I hope that you'll take full advantage of that opportunity, because we look forward to trying to get to the things that you're interested in.
Okay, so some of the program highlights, I think one unique feature of it is that it's a joint degree. So you'll be getting a degree from both the Rhode Island School of Design and Brown University upon graduation from the program. And studios will make up the major portions of the experience. And I see a question right now in the Q&A about the length of studio courses, and what we're trying to do here is create a balance between the two campus curriculums. So when we talk about studios, we're talking about studios similar in length to the studios you might have been, this person who wrote the question may have been used to at RISD, where they're 5 hours long on a day. But and so there's also a requirement for taking elective courses, shorter 3-credit elective courses, and you'll be able to choose from courses that are taught at each campus, and that'll highlight or support the work being done in the studio courses. It's an 11-month program, so yeah, it's going to be a challenging workload, but it's going to be very dynamic, and we're going to be working with external partners so that you really will kind of in the first studio, which happens in the summer, you'll be kind of projecting or formulating a trajectory that you would like to take through the 11 months, so that your capstone project at the end has a real vision to it, and can be done in collaboration with a specific type of career path, or even a kind of partnered research that you're very much interested in. And also, because we're the two campuses are adjacent to each other here in Providence, on the east side of Providence, we'll be able to take advantage of resources from both institutions. And that would include very unique spaces like the Nature Lab, which is pictured on this slide, which is at RISD, and the Brown Design Workshop, which is at Brown, and will be a main resource for the MADE program. Next slide, please. Okay. And this talks about specifically about the courses, especially the studio courses. So the first studio, which would take place in the summer of, July of 21, measure and make, um, practice and process, observing, understanding, changing, testing, and iterating. Along the way, you'll learn about measuring, making, and each other. I'm not going to read all of the text on the slide, but just in general, that first studio is the studio where each of you will be able to start to articulate a kind of a trajectory that you're looking to achieve. And at that point, there'll be the kind of advising that'll help you look at the elective courses that are available and choose ones that support your specific kind of trajectory that you're looking at. And then the second studio, which would take place right in the fall, collaborate and iterate. Again, looking at some more processes, we're really going to be focusing on collaboration and how people from different disciplines can work on projects together, and each bringing their own strengths into the mix. The next course, which is going to be in the winter session, will be a course on communication skills. And here we want to bring together different voices that talk about, visual communication, verbal communication, written communication, and, just how do you not just articulate ideas, but communicate these ideas across disciplines so that you can take advantage of, multiple voices and multiple strains. And anybody can join in as we're going through this. So, and then the last studio, the CAP studio, would be integrate and implement. And this is how do you take the research and development that's been going on and make it real, make it work, build it so that it can be tested, so that it can be refined. And again, we're really talking about how do you bridge these disciplines, traditional engineering, traditional industrial design, how do you bring those together, and what kinds of methods can be brought to the fore, that especially for collaboration, so that you're really leveraging all the resources, the human resources, as well as other resources.
So I see some questions, and I think that we want to make sure that people understand that when we think about the cohort, and we're imagining that it will be a split between designers or those with a design background and those with a technical background. So the real focus is how you leverage the skills you already have to work on projects that have aspects where you're not the expert. So how do you use other people's expertise to inform the way that you work through a particular problem? So I think in terms of background, we're expecting that people would have either a degree in some technical field, and I'm not, doesn't necessarily have to be engineering, but I think we're thinking that there's people who have an affinity for sort of the analytical approach to problems, and that designers have an affinity. I have to be careful here because I don't want to offend my designer friends, but so there's more of an emotional and people connection, I think, when you come at things from a design perspective. And what we've found in working together is that these two things complement each other, and we can do a much better job of finding solutions if we bring the two pieces together rather than, the old model was sort of the designers do their work and then they throw it over the walls to the engineers, and they, well, from the design perspective, they screw it up and maybe get something manufactured, but it wasn't a satisfactory process for those involved. So we're sort of building experiences in a new process that's more inclusive of a range of ideas rather than there being one right way. And Keeper mentioned trajectories, and we'll talk more about them, but the idea is that each of us brings experience and ideas to this program. And what we want the trajectories to do is we all have desires for what we'll get out of this. And it's an opportunity for you to define what you'll get out of this besides working with a wonderful group of people. So the trajectory has pieces like the kinds of projects that you choose to work on, the electives that you choose. So for instances, I think help. So I'll be even specific. So for instance, we might have a project with the Providence Children's Museum to do exhibit design. And there's an element there where deepening your understanding of, could be cognitive science or the way people learn, would help inform your design decisions. So your trajectory might include courses in education. You probably also would like to sharpen your skills in some areas. So another elective or two might be ones that help build some skills that you would like to add to your arsenal. And the trajectory really is composed of the projects you work on in the studio, the electives that you choose to complement that, and the partners with whom you work on the projects that we'll undertake.
Great. Shall we go to the next slide? Okay. So the other piece of the thing that we can add, the information we can add, is that the studio courses are co-taught by 2 faculty each. So there'll be a faculty member from RISD and a faculty member from Brown conducting each of the studio courses, so that there'll always be, you know, this kind of multiple perspectives being brought into the experience. And then Chris mentioned a little bit about external partners, and these can be from, you know, this will be from public, private, and nonprofit sectors. And there was a question about what sorts of organizations, and I think we can say that each institution has established relationships with companies and other outside institutions. And those relationships that we already have as RISD and Brown will be brought into the MADE program. So we can name some of them. I mean, we've had, you know, IBM has been actually helping with the development of the program in certain ways. That's a relationship that Brown has established. We've established a relationship with the Children's Museum here in Providence. That's one of the nonprofits that we work with. We have
local hospitals.
Yeah, the hospitals. We have relationships at Hasbro, which is here in Providence. So there are lots of a large variety of kinds of corporate sponsors and corporate partners that are available. And we're going to be, again, we're going to be adding to this list that we already have in preparation for the start of the program as well. Again, the elective courses are both RISD and Brown. Even students at each institution, we have a cross-registration between the two colleges already. So students are used to taking courses at both campuses. So that system is in place, and we'll emphasize that again with our own cohort here in the MAID program. Next slide, please. So yeah, advice for the application. Yes, next slide.
So I'm going to take over a little bit from Kipra here and talk a little bit about application requirements, key things that we want you to think about, focus on, and just things to highlight that are important. One of the things that I wanted to just kind of start with in terms of application is to say that the applications are due on February 1st. However, we will start reviewing applications in January. So I would suggest, or we would suggest that you get applications in as early as possible so that we can start reviewing and beginning to think about the cohort. There will be 18 students in the initial cohort that we have. So it's a pretty large group, not huge, but I think it'll be a really interesting mix of people and a lot of contacts that you'll be able to make and work with for the 11-month program. There are, 4 kind of key things that we'll be looking at. You can see it here on the slide: a written statement of intent, a portfolio, official transcript, and 3 letters of recommendation. So I'm going to talk about the portfolio on the next slide in a minute, so I'll get back to that. I see that there are several questions about that, and I think Chris, Kipra, and I will want to, talk in depth about portfolio and answer any questions that you have about that. So first thing is the written statement of intent. So first piece of advice that I'd really recommend as you begin to think about this is read the questions that are being posed to you about the statement. So you're seeing, why is this program right for you? What will you bring to strengthen the cohort? You might want to think about goals and how might this program help you to achieve them, and maybe talk a little bit about that. I highly recommend that you do a draft of your statement and then give it to a few people, talk to them, have them read it, have them offer feedback, because I think that advice can be really helpful and help provide clarity as you revise and get ready to submit this. So above all else, I would say a proofread. Make sure that there are no errors in your written text if you can help it. And 3 key things I would say would be concise, be clear, and keep it simple. We want to understand who you are and what you want to talk about and what you're excited about in regards to the program. I'm going to skip over portfolio. I'll talk about that in a second. And just quickly touch on transcripts. This is pretty standard. Obviously, you need official transcripts from whatever institutions you attended previously. And then 3 letters of recommendation. The key thing I would say about letters of recommendation is make sure these people know you. Have them talk about a specific example of what you do well or what you might bring to the program. Try to guide the people that write your letters of recommendation. Give them a little bit of, a few helpful hints. Show them some of your portfolio. Let them know a little bit more about you before they go to write that letter. Can we go to the next slide? So portfolios, this is always a big one, and we always get lots of questions about these. So the first thing I would say is make sure that you're looking at the MAID website. Take a look at the portfolio guide. It's a 4-page PDF that we're providing you that really gives you some helpful hints about what we're looking for in the portfolio. I think one of the questions that were on here was, how long should the portfolio be? We're recommending 10 pages, no more. First 3 pages might be sort of an introduction to who you are, and then move on to different key projects. So the key thing in the portfolio is let it allow us to understand who you are and the work that you do. Make sure that it's understandable and well organized, and highlight your best work. For me, I often find portfolios less is often more. You know, tell me just enough to get a really good hint as to who you are, and show a range of key projects that begin to explain that. Tell a story of each. So, you know, what was the role that you took in the project? What made the project successful? Or how did you even run into perhaps a failure or something that went wrong that you learned from and grew from and made the project that much stronger? So those are key things that I would talk about in your portfolio. I think we're gonna move on to the next slide, which is mostly ending, I think, our, yeah. So basically, this is our website. I would definitely take a look at it, read through with a fine-tooth comb, look at the portfolio guide, and just take a look at even the curriculum at RISD and the curriculum at Brown. Get a feel for what type of elective courses we offer. There's a lot of information on that site, so I highly recommend you take a look at it. I think we're going to move on to question and answer. So this is an opportunity for you guys to type into the chat and for us to start to hopefully provide some answers to things that are uncertain for you.
Well, that's great. Excellent. Thank you, panel. That was terrific and very helpful information regarding the program. So we were able to answer a number of questions as you were going along. So I think I'll just start at the top here and we'll kind of go through some of these quickly. So this one, someone's thanking us for putting the presentation together, which thank you for mentioning that. So they want to know, can you expand a little bit on the choice to make this an 11-month program instead of a similar 2-year program?
So I think we were trying to do two things. One was to be considerate about what we would like people to learn in the process. And so there's a financial element here as well, because a 2-year program is really expensive and it excludes people. And we seek a diverse cohort that maybe some of the people just don't have time for a 2-year program. And I think there was a slide earlier that said the workload will be challenging. And I think that's true. I think that you'll be engaged with MAID-related things for most of your waking hours. I also think that that'll be a wonderful thing. So workload, I see what we're doing as something we all enjoy doing. So, so yes, we're squeezing a lot into 11 months. We're doing it in 11 months because we think we'll get a better cohort.
And I can add a little, and the other thing is that because we're accepting students who either already have an engineering degree or a design degree, we are really focused during the 11 months on how to find common links and how to get collaboration to happen between these two kinds of disciplines. So rather than, so the skill set that we're bringing to the table is more a skill set that leverages the skills that the students will already have when they're coming in. And we feel like the timeline is adequate for being able to do this kind of work as a goal, along with everything else that Chris was saying. And I think and also we imagine that in the future that we would be able to accommodate people who have been in the workforce for a little while, or students that may be working part-time, if that's possible, but so that the 11 months then makes it easier for someone to leave a job, focus on this for a year, and then go back to that job. So that's another reason for having a more compressed timeline.
And the other thing I'd say is that what we are not doing is we're not teaching engineers to be designers, nor are we teaching designers to be engineers. We're teaching people to take advantage of others who already have that expertise.
To collaborate with others, yeah.
To collaborate, exactly.
Excellent. Okay, and I want to remind everybody, if you could use the Q&A, we're not really monitoring the chat. So the Q&A is the best place to be putting your questions. So I think this is more of kind of like an admissions almost. So there's two. So one, how many credits do you earn at the end of the program? And also, is there a GPA requirement?
That's a good question. You know, what we discovered putting this together is that Brown and RISD have different ways of defining credit, a credit load. So, from that point of view, for this conversation, I think we can use Brown's method because I think that's what is going to be communicated on the website. And
Yeah.
right, Chris? So
Yes.
maybe you've got a better handle at how to
Okay.
describe the credit.
So
Credit.
in Brown credit speak, there you will need to complete 11 credits. So each of the studios bears 2 credits. So there will be 6 credits from the studios. Each elective will bear 1 credit. So 4 from there to give you 10. And then the winter course will give you the 11th credit to complete the degree. And I think there's an associated question with grade point, and I think it's asking, is there some minimum GPA that you need to have to complete the program?
Right.
The short answer to that is, well, so we've got weird things with credits. We also have weird things with grades in that we don't compute a GPA. What we do have is a student handbook that says something about the performance that's expected from those in the program and how we would assess whether someone was not performing as they were expected to. But so there's not a number. And if the question about GPA was about applications, there's not a number there either. Because I think that gives us one dimension, but you all have more dimensions than that. And we want to give you all the opportunities we can to tell us about yourselves and why you would be a great fit for the program, or to understand why it's interesting, but it doesn't make sense for me.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Next question, what sort of portfolio would be expected from a student with less of a background in design? So I guess someone that perhaps is in the School of Engineering right now and looking at this program.
I think the portfolio can be a very broad, it can offer a very broad perspective. In a design field, the portfolio typically is very graphic oriented, tends to highlight a lot of sketching or modeling or all of the different things that we might use as tools as designers. But within engineering, I think sometimes it's more about the project brief. And I often see in engineering like a project poster, and Chris can probably maybe speak more to this, but you know, that project posters are made and it sort of explains the process, some of the calculations, some of the analysis that's happening within the type of project that you're doing. And I see somebody wrote that they have I think a sociology background. You know, that's a unique perspective that you have, and maybe talk a little bit about some of the work that you do. You can combine it, writing, text, graphic, a bunch of different things that you can do to really highlight what it is that you bring to the program. I think we don't want to limit the different types of people that might apply. And so I would say, you know, the portfolio can be very diverse.
We're trying to, we have to have some way to get to know you, right? So this is really, I think, as Jenica says, think of it broadly. So I think the first thing that comes to mind is it's a lot of images and not much text. But what we're after is, what does that mean? And so I think that it's an opportunity for you to tell us what the work that you have done means, both to you and to the larger world. So I want you to use the portfolio as a way to so that we can get to know you. Because ultimately, we're going to have to make this decision about people joining us. And at one point I said, what we're looking for are people that we'd like to work with, right? So show us your work. Show us the things that interest you. Show us the things you're excited about.
Terrific, thank you. So we do have a couple international questions I wanted to get to. The first one being, does this program belong to STEM, which means it has 24 months for international students?
So I'm not an expert on this, except I have discussed it with the people in our, I can come up, Office of International something. Anyway, it is a STEM program. For the 24-month question, I do not know the answer to that. We can find out.
Perfect, great, thank you, Chris. Yes, and I believe it's OISSS at Brown University.
Thank you.
Yes, you are welcome, yes. Yes, and another question was about, are you accepting international students? And of course, the answer to that is yes. As far as reviewing applications, what date in January, if you know, will you start reviewing applications? And two-part question. And can you review applications before all 3 letters are in, which I'm assuming not, that you guys would want a full, complete package.
Right. We don't know the date yet that we would start doing the, reviewing the applications. We know it's going to be at the beginning of January. But of course, we will establish a date, and that'll be posted once we know exactly what that date is. And I agree that we would want to have a complete application before we start reviewing. So, that means to try very hard, of course, to get letters, that you need in time for the deadline.
Excellent. And you may have touched upon this before, but there is a question from someone who possibly is working. So is this program flexible for someone working full or part-time? So I guess the key is it flexible?
I'm going to touch on this one because I first shout out. Hi, Eric. Thanks for the question. Went to Brown as an undergrad, so a familiar face. I think it would, for somebody working full-time, I don't see there's any way for it to happen. And even part-time, I guess it would depend on how part-time it is, because we do 11 months, right? We're trying to do a lot in 11 months. And so our expectation is that for those 11 months, this is the most important thing in your life. That may be a little bit of overstatement, but that's our expectation.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Okay, so let's, I guess, move into, we have a couple questions regarding scholarships or financing options, both for U.S. citizens and international.
Mm.
So yes.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Yes, there will be scholarships available. We're not calling them that exactly. What is for this program, 25% of the why am I hesitating? Because how it gets split up depends on need, but essentially 25% of the tuition will be returned to the cohort to help meet the needs of those in need. That was too many needs, but you get what I mean. So yes, there are scholarships available. Um, so I would encourage people to apply without worrying too much about how they're going to pay for it. And it goes through the standard process in terms of there'll be a thing called a FAFSA that you'll have to have filled out and that sort of thing. But yes, there is money available.
Excellent. Perfect. Yes. And there's also resources on the Brown website through the financial aid office. Ken, a couple of other portfolio questions. One, can we submit websites as a portfolio? And then the other, for students coming from a technical background that may have projects that are not as easily presented in images, visual format, how would you advise building the portfolio?
Okay, I'll take the first one because it's easy. No. Sorry, but what we're asking for, we're asking for something specific to this program, and we're trying to make it so that it's a relatively flat playing field. So we're trying to be consistent in terms of what people submit for the portfolio. Jenica, maybe you've got a thought there too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of what I talked about when I was going over this a little bit, but sort of the less is more. You should be able to sort of highlight who you are and what you do in a short, concise 10-page document. And I'm seeing questions on the chat here that, can you submit video? I'm not sure, is the format, Chris, I actually don't know the format. Is it a PDF that they're submitting? There are different ways to embed video sometimes, but it's tricky and doesn't always come through. So I don't know the answer to the video aspect of this.
I think that we're not opposed to looking at videos, and it may be that the video is presented to us as in the form of a link to
yeah, that would be a good way to do it.
To a place where we can just click a link that's in your description, and then we would see the video. I think you have to just make it easy for us. Just be aware that, yeah, as long as it's clear, concise, and we're able to get to it without too much trouble, I think a video is fine. A short video.
Yes, good point. A very good point. So I guess, again, another question regarding the application and the recommendation letters. Preferable to have a mix of both academic and professional ones, or is one or the other preferred?
I think, again, that's a question of who are the best people that you know to give that recommendation. It can be really interesting to see a little bit of both, in that, if people have a perspective of you as a student and people have a perspective of you as an employee or a colleague, it can tell us different things about you. But I would say you choose the people that know you best, that can talk about who you are and what you do, and are going to be the best at explaining, what they know about you, and let us learn a little bit more.
Great, thank you. And Chris, I do believe that you had already answered this possibly earlier, but the GRE is not a requirement, correct?
GRE is not a requirement.
Excellent, thank you. And a COVID question, which you may not have the answer for. So for the next semester, I guess, well, we're looking at July of 2021. This program, will it be totally online or will have the opportunity to come to campus?
The idea is that it will be on campus only at this point. So there will not be an online option. And that may change, right? Hard to predict where exactly we'll be in July. And we certainly will keep you up to date on where that sits.
Mhm.
Yeah, and there's also right on Brown as well as I'm sure RISD always have the ongoing updates right on the website. So certainly keep an eye on that.
Right.
So is there a faculty list for studio shown in the website?
We talked a little bit about this the other day in terms of faculty that'll be teaching, and then the people that you'll have access to. I think that right now there's a list of maybe 8 to 10 people that are directly affiliated. I'm not actually on it yet, but I plan to be. But I think there'll be a mix of people depending on who's available, who partners well together. And I think you'll have a lot of opportunity to also engage with faculty that you might not directly be working with in studio. One of the things that's really great about RISD and Brown is that there's a really wide range of faculty on both campuses, and they're often really happy. I love when I get an email from a student saying, you know, hey, I have a question, I'm working on this project. Can you talk to me based on your expertise? I would say that, you know, you're going to have access to a lot of different people in different ways. So it's a difficult question to answer, but I hope that clarifies it a little bit.
Great, yes, thank you. So I'm going to group these two together. So one being, how do you compare? How does this new program compare to other schools that offer a design engineering program? And what do you anticipate the career trajectory to be like after someone graduates?
Mm.
I would start by saying that we imagine, and this I would say is a difference with other programs, is we're interested in working with people who are going to practice design engineering, so that we think of it, it's a professional program, and when people are done, they would go out and practice as a designer or engineer.
Excellent. Okay, so being mindful of time, I think we're going to finish up with one final question. And again, goes back to the portfolio, which is one of the very important aspect of the application process. So I guess that when you are submitting your information for the portfolio, should they try to limit themselves to 10 files to stay on the page requirement, or upload numerous files and images per project, but stick to 10 projects?
So
that's a great last question.
Yeah, so we have to review, right, portfolios. So part of what we are asking people to do is to limit it to 10 pages. And yes, that means you need to be selective about what you put in. And you need to think about each one of those and why it makes sense to include it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is an editing piece to it, but the goal is to present yourself in a way that we'll be able to get to know you, as much as we can. So these 10 pages are really, yes, it is an editing challenge, but I think it's doable to, in 10 pages, get us, really present yourself, and so we can really see who, what you're all about and what you can bring to the program and what we can offer. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, perfect. Well, great. Well, we are right at time. And so I want to thank everyone for joining us. Panelists, did you have any final thoughts or comments before we end?
I would say this is clearly this is a new program, and so in some ways it's an experiment, and we've worked very hard to try to craft experiences for you all that will be uh, challenging and exciting and hopefully uplifting as well.
Mhm. Yes, and thank you for participating. I think it's, as Chris says, it's kind of an experiment. It's a beginning of something, and we're going to learn as much from the people who contact us and ask questions as we've been learning so far from each other and the research that we've been doing. So thank you, and we look forward to meeting you.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I would
Oh, go ahead,
say the same thing. Yeah, no, I would just say we're really excited to review portfolios and review applications and see what you're all about. I think it's going to be a really interesting first year for the group of you.
Absolutely. And I would say too that this is going to be a competitive program. So as Jenica had mentioned before, there's only 18 students that will be in the first cohort. So certainly get your applications in early. And great. Well, again, thank you all for joining us. And if you have any questions, certainly feel free to reach out to maid@brown.edu, and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.
Thank you.